Our next guest is, well, he needs no introduction. Of course, he is a Super Bowl champion, Senior Vice President of Player Development for the Washington Redskins, MVP, and, well, I would say this, a legend. Mr. Doug Williams is with us on the Mattress Warehouse Hotline. Doug, it is a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, I got to ask you about – thank you, man. I got to ask you about this. You were nice enough to do our Fan Fest a couple of years back, and the boys had you record an ID for this radio show, and I want to play it for you, and I want you to tell me if you remember recording it, because it's probably the favorite one I have. If you don't mind, Landfill, please play that for Mr. Williams.
Hi, it's Doug Williams, and you're listening to Chad Dukes versus the world of what is it versus? Why is he fighting the fans?
Do you remember that, sir?
Yeah, I do.
I was like, I hope Doug.
We was out there in Chantilly, wasn't we?
Yeah. And I was like, I hope Doug Williams doesn't think I'm getting into fist fights with my fans. That's not at all what's happening.
I do.
It was a lot of fun though. And let me ask you.
Sir.
That's good. I'm glad you remember it. Boy, so much to talk to you about. First of all, congratulations. A movie being made about your life. You got to give me some details there. How did they approach you about this?
Well, actually, I can go way back. Right after the Super Bowl, I don't know if you remember the movie. Remember the movie Lonesome Dove?
Oh, of course.
Suzanne DePass did that movie. And after the Super Bowl, she actually got in touch with me and wanted to buy the rights to Doug Williams' story. But that's 30-some years ago, and I didn't think it had enough story to it at that particular time. So I didn't do it. But over the last 10 to 12 years, I've talked to 3 or 4 people about who wanted to do the movie. And, sometimes you want to do it, but you don't have all the pieces and the parts in place to make it happen. And just so happened last year sometime, Will Packer who's actually from St. Pete, Florida, remember when I was in Tampa as a player, and he was just talking about how his family was a big fan. And, we talked about the movie at that time, but he didn't do sports movies. He did stuff like Night School and Girls Trip and Think Like a Man, and that's his thing. But from the wind forward, about 3 months ago, we got on a conference call and we talked, and he thought that the timing was right to do something. And a couple of 3 weeks ago, he decided, we go and strike an agreement and get it done. And he put the press release out. We still in the early stages. We got to find a writer. And when we find the writer, the writer and myself and a lot of other folks got to sit down and put it together. So we still got a ways to go.
It's a no-brainer when you talk about playing and coaching and being in the front office and accomplishing what you've had. I mean, it's going to be more interesting than most fiction that's out there, but I bet it's pretty weird sitting down and writing a movie about yourself.
Yeah, the thing about it, you're gonna have to divulge so much of yourself. That's gonna be some hidden stuff that a lot of folks don't know about. But if you're gonna do it right, you got to tell it. So that's what's gonna have to happen. But I'm looking forward to it. To reminisce about growing up in old times and some of the struggles, some of the things you had to go through in order to get where you was able to get. I mean, it's gonna be interesting.
Doug Williams is my guest on Chad Dukes versus the World. Very happy to have him on the Mattress Warehouse Hotline. Doug, I'd love to know what your reaction was when you saw that the number of Bobby Mitchell was going to be retired by the Washington Redskins.
Wow. I knew it was only one number that wasn't in existence, and that was Sammy Baugh. But what Bobby Mitchell stood for and what Bobby Mitchell had to endure, it's easy for us to sit here now and not really look at. I mean, I'm a lot older than most of the guys who's playing today, and I know what it was like going into Tampa in 1978. But could you imagine in '62, and you the first African American to ever be on this football team, and you playing for a guy who really didn't want you on the team, and you can make you walk around probably like on eggshells. But to Bobby's credit, Bobby succeeded, and he did what he had to do to put himself in the Hall of Fame. So I can't even fathom what Bobby Mitchell's mentality was back in 1962 on the Washington Redskins team. I can't even think about it. I don't think nobody can put themselves in those shoes.
I'll tell you what's rare, Doug, is that nobody agrees on anything anymore, and 100% of everybody believes that it was long past time for that number to be retired.
Yeah, and I agree. When I first got here in 1986, coming from Tampa, and actually at that time, I don't think we had any black assistants. I ain't gonna say general managers. I don't know if we had the black assistant general managers. Did we have any black coaches? I'm sure we did. Art Shell, I think. But to be able to walk in Bobby's office and sit down and talk to Bobby and just listen to him and the wisdom that he had, and no matter how bad you think you had it, Bobby will make sure you understand you got it a lot better than you think you have it. And you put that together, what he meant to this organization, and you put that together with what he did on the football field, I do think it was overdue. Bobby should have been the second guy number hanging from the rafters a long time ago.
And he is now, and everybody agrees that's a great idea. And, of course, it opens up the question that I'm sure you've been asked 10,000 times. Give me another couple of numbers that if it were up to you would be retired right now. And I would probably stipulate, and a lot of Redskins fans think 17 should be hanging in those rafters as well as a retired number. Do you think that would be appropriate?
I'm not going to get into retiring numbers should be retired, because when you look at the history of the Washington Redskins, there were so many great players before me and players after me, and I think it would be unfair for me to sit here and say what number should be retired and what number shouldn't be retired. I think as time go on, I think at the end of the day, there's going to be a few more guys that no one would get retired. I know some people who worry. I run not get into that debate because I know that's the debate out there right now, and I'm not going to get in it. So when they retire, I'll be glad for whoever number get retired. Like I am a Bobby, I'm certainly glad Bobby number retired, because I think from an emotion standpoint, it meant a lot to me to see Bobby Mitchell getting this due.
That's great to hear. We're joined by Senior Vice President of Player Development for the Redskins, Doug Williams, on Chad Dukes versus the World. Doug, I would love to know, as a former quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when Tom Brady decided to become the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I would love to know what your first reaction was.
Well, that was my number 212, right?
I know.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of my ex-teammates down there, Jimmy Giles and Fernell Dickerson, and talked to a couple of media guys down there. I wanted them to understand that when I donned number 12 in Tampa, Tom Brady was 1 year old.
That is great.
Tom Brady was born in 1977, and I was a rookie in 1978. And I'm sure every time he breaks out of that tunnel, he'll get a chance to look straight up in a number that'll say Williams, number 12. And he can say to himself, wow, I'm wearing Doug Williams' number. That's just one of them things. You're talking about probably the greatest quarterback of all time, man. It's just good for Tampa to have a guy like that down there.
I got to tell you, I am a little bummed out they redid the uniforms. I was hoping they'd go orange creamsicle the entire time. I love those things you guys used to wear.
Man, I tell you what, if they went creamsicle, man, I would have wanted my jersey back, man. I think, but I haven't seen the new ones. Basically, I know they changed, but I'm sure whatever color they are, they're gonna make them look good.
Did you like the creamsicle jerseys at the time? I feel like at the time everybody thought they were terrible, and now there's all this nostalgia. I loved them ever since I saw them, but did you like wearing them?
Hey, Chad, let me say this. You wear what you got. That's what we had. Let me tell you something. I got a jersey now. I got my number 12 hanging up in my house down in Louisiana. I didn't have no problem, man, and I loved it when we wore all white. We wore that urn with white pants. Man, I thought we was clean, and everybody thought, man, them creamsicle. And I know growing up, I like creamsicle, but it had nothing to do with the jersey color to me.
I know you didn't want to wear dark jerseys playing in Tampa. I know that much. Probably one of the reasons why you like those orange jerseys.
Yeah, but you know what? We played in Tampa, and most of our jersey was like fishnet, right?
Yeah.
And we all got a great lesson when we went up to Minnesota the day or so after that snowed, and we had these fishnet jerseys on, and we realized that up in Metropolitan Stadium in Minnesota, fishnet don't work well.
That sounds terrible. That sounds like an awful wardrobe malfunction.
Oh, my God.
Oh, man. Doug Williams is my guest on Chad Dukes versus the World. Doug, been watching Dwayne Haskins work out. Man, he's in some tremendous shape, and you feel kind of bad. It's like there's so many things he can't control about his preparation right now with the pandemic and, having to work away and knowing that it's a new offense. But I'll tell you what I was impressed with, Doug, is controlling what you can control is so important, and he decided to make an investment in himself and come back in some tremendous shape. As someone that played the position at the highest level, what does that tell you about his work ethic right now?
Well, before the pandemic really hit, Dwayne was in the office every morning, in the building every day, working. I mean, Dwayne knows what's at hand. And it's unfortunate, Chad, that, leading up to the draft, man, all these gurus was talking about, Dwayne this, Dwayne that. I mean, he's a young quarterback. He deserves every opportunity like anybody else deserves. Talent-wise, coming out last year, in the last 2 years, I don't care who came out this year, last year, there's not a quarterback that come out in the last 2 years that has the ability from an arm strength standpoint and arm talent that Dwayne Haskins has. Dwayne can throw with the best of them. Now, mentally, he has to control the other part. And I think he has aligned himself and realized that's what he has to do, and I think that's what he's doing. I think at the end of the day, give him the opportunity to do what everybody else do, and that is to improve upon his game.
That's all you can do right now. I got to ask you, Doug, as someone that's coached college kids and worked with quarterbacks at the professional level, what is the biggest difference on the way you have to approach guys as they transition up to the top level of the NFL? What's the biggest difference for you?
Well, I'm a firm believer. I've always said this, Chad. Some things are taught and some things are caught. And you can learn everything you need to know about the position. But the part that nobody can teach you is how to mature to understand the leadership role that you have to take to make it happen. And that's what I'm hoping more than anything, that Dwayne sees himself as the CEO. And as a CEO, it ain't all X's and O's. It's being able to have that presence when you walk in the locker room. They know my leader is walking in the locker room. When you walk in a room, you get on the bus, when you get on the airplane, that's my leader. I always say quarterbacks got to be a little different than the divas. The divas are the wide receivers and the defensive backs, all right? Let's be honest with you. Quarterback ain't no diva, so you can't put yourself in the diva. You got to carry yourself a little different. But at the same time, you got to be able to communicate with the divas. If that makes sense.
It does.
and then you got to be able to communicate with the big boys in the trenches. And that's where leadership comes from. They got to believe in whoever the quarterback is. And when you do that, when you walk in that huddle, when you go to the sideline, you want to hear the defense say, hey, Dwayne, we got him from here. You know what I mean? That's respect. And you want to walk in the huddle on offense, and they say, okay, let's go now. Let's make sure we do this, and nobody talking but Dwayne. That's a present, but you can't take that away. You can't demand that. You got to earn that, and that's what I'm hoping he does.
Wow, that's well said. Doug Williams is my guest on Chad Dukes versus the World. Doug, you got to throw to some pretty talented wide receivers, I must say, and I think you know a thing or three about them. Terry McLaurin last year, not only tremendous on the field, there was so much inconsistency with the offense. It was a tough year for the team, but put up numbers so impressive in front of a microphone. Just really seems to be incredibly professional. I'd love to know what you thought of his rookie year and then what you think the ceiling of his potential in this league for the Redskins is.
Well, number one, I got to give that young man some credit. He ran a pretty good number too, by the way.
Is. Yes, he is.
But the way he carries himself every day, not just at practice, not just on game day, Terry McLaurin is the same guy every day. Very, very mature individual. And he played, he's not that diva. Now, I say you got to be a diva. He don't have diva in him. He got diva ability. and he portrayed that last year.
Take that.
And hopefully he had that same year this year, but a lot better than last year. The guy plays with so much confidence. He's tougher than nails. He come to work every day. He is the epitome of an individual that you want in your room. He's a leader without saying a word. He don't have to say a word, and you follow Terry. That's what you look for in good football players. I always tell the young guys this. Don't worry about what football can do for you. You worry about what you can do for football, and I think that's what Terry does.
Certainly seems like it's. Another guy you could probably apply that to is Alex Smith. And after watching that documentary and seeing what he went through and how many guys just decided, I can't go through this, and the leg is taken, the fact that we're seeing him throw footballs, he looks to be in tremendous shape, and seeing him in a Redskins uniform again would be unbelievable. What have you taken from his time throughout this process, the way he's worked back from this injury and been a part of this organization?
Well, let me say that I was, if you remember back at the Alex Smith press conference, I'm the one that introduced Alex.
Sure.
And I can say this, from the day Alex Smith walked in the door at Redskins Park, it was a different building. And see, that's the stuff you can't teach. It's a presence.
Right.
You knew who Alex Smith was. And that's what I was talking about when I was talking about Dwayne Haskins. When them double doors open at Redskins Park, you felt Alex Smith coming in. You watched him in practice. I watched him one day at practice, and that's when I realized, from a leadership standpoint, you don't get too big, you don't get too little for Alex Smith to talk to. I watched him in the building. I watched him in the cafeteria. It wasn't like he had a clique. I'm sitting with these guys every day. Alex Smith sat anywhere he wanted with anybody. It didn't matter what color, creed, or whatever. That's who he was. That was leadership, and you can feel that. That's what I do. I watch people. And Alex Smith has impressed me from the day he got here, the day we introduced him, and unfortunately, he got hurt and couldn't 6-3 at that time. He was the reason why we was where we are, because of his leadership alone.
Yeah, and it's something that seems to have continued, even though he hasn't been playing, influencing this organization. Well, you got an unbelievable set of circumstances here, Doug. You've coached and played in a lot of different scenarios. Nobody's really been through what we're going through now. You mentioned football and giving back to the sport. Football's going to be so important this autumn in ways that we probably never even expected to, the entirety of this country. How difficult is the task for you to do your job, for Coach Rivera to do his job, for just the players to get out there? I mean, I think we're going to learn a lot about a lot of different groups of people, judging on how they're able to overcome all of this and get ready to play a really tough sport.
Well, we all know what has happened in the last 3 months or so, and unfortunate, you got to respect what's going on, and we all want to get back on the field. We all want to play. And hopefully that we're able to do it. But, we all got to be disciplined enough to get to that point. And I think if we can get to that point, it would do so much with so many individuals, not just the players. I mean, I was talking to somebody, and if it gets to the point, and nobody wants to play in an empty stadium, let's be honest. Nobody wants to play in an empty stadium. But if we do end up doing it that way, the TV ratings don't go off the roof. Unbelievable. Because I think it's so many people just wait to have something to hold on to. Right now, you know, I'm zoomed out. Hey, man, I didn't know I was this technical, to be honest with you. I mean, I can put backgrounds on screens. I can do all that,
man,
because that's all you can do now. And I mean, even this time I've been on visit Louisiana. I haven't even been home, and you know, me and my kids, we set a day up just about once a week, and we Zoom. That's how we visit now, and that's a whole new ball game. So if you can get the sports back, football back, you know, you would love to have the fans there without a doubt. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to do something, hopefully.
Yeah, I completely agree. What if being as where you are from, Doug, and being as the residence you have in Louisiana, I just had my first low country boil out at the beach this past weekend. Give me the list of stuff that's got to be in one of those things if you're going to sit down to it. We didn't have crawfish. They weren't in season. What has to be in one of those?
Wait a minute. You had a crawfish bar?
No, it was shrimp, and it had the sausage in it, and it had the corn and clams and crab legs. That's
okay.
That's what
let
we
me,
had.
Let me help you a little bit down. If you was in Zachary, Louisiana,
all right,
with one of them crawfish burners, can't say crawfish too loud because my wife may hear me. Because she almost a crawfish. She loves it. She's from Homer, Louisiana, so you know what that is.
You'll have to get some.
Let me tell you what they put in there. They put smoked sausage.
Okay.
They put turkey necks. They put neck bone. They put corn and Irish potatoes, and then the crawfish in that season. So let me tell you, man, when you get that corn, or you get one of them Irish potatoes, or one of them neck bones seasoned with them crawfish.
Yeah.
You had enough fighting. I'm not a big crawfish eater, but I've seen them in the backyard when they pour them over that table. You know, you got to have that long picnic table now.
Yeah, of course.
And you cover it up with that paper, because when you finish, everybody just get a spot. And I've seen mamas, I've seen dad and knock their kid down trying to get to the picnic table. That's when you know you have the crawfish bar.
Man, I got to be at one of your boils, Doug. That sounds like it's good people watching.
They just sent me about 100 pictures from Friday, Juneteenth, the first time they ever celebrate Juneteenth down there. And I think I saw everybody who say they kin to me in my backyard.
How long is that list? How many people claim to be kin to you as opposed to that actually are?
Let me tell you something. If you saw one of these pictures, me and my wife were sitting there looking at the picture the other day, and I'm saying, holy cow, who are these people?
Every neighbor that knows where you live shows up. I get it.
Oh, yeah.
That goes. Well, Doug, it is a huge pleasure. Congratulations on the movie. I can't wait to see it. The season is going to be incredibly entertaining, and love having you on the show. Would love to get you on more often. It's a real pleasure to interview you.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much. Mr. Doug Williams, everybody, Super Bowl MVP. And as a lifelong Redskins fan, it is an honor to have that gentleman on the show. It's Chad Dukes versus the world.